another booktube video. Hello friends, today I'm going to be talking to you about how I rate my books. So I'm making this video because I think that I rate my books a little bit differently than other people, and when I talk about books and their ratings, I want you to understand exactly what that means. So the first thing to know is that I do not rate critically, I rate based on my personal enjoyment. Ellie, what in the heck are you doing? So for example, some classics I've given 2 stars. That doesn't mean that I think they're bad and don't deserve to be classics. It just means that personally, I don't like classics as much. So there's some things that I've rated 2 stars, but if I were rating critically, maybe it would be like a 4 or 5. I rate completely based on my enjoyment, my preference. Nothing about actually how good I think it is, just how much I liked it. So for me, the baseline is 3 stars. So basically when I pick up a book, it's sets at 3 stars, and if everything stays the same, it'll be a 3-star book. If it really exceeds my expectations, it'll be 4 stars. If it becomes favorite, it'll be 5 stars. If it is not quite what I was expecting, a little less, it'll be 2 stars. If I really didn't like it, it'll be 1 star. Some people will start at 5 stars, and every lower star rating is they take away points. So some people I see will have a 4-star rating for something and be like, yeah, I just couldn't rate it 5 stars because I had problems with it. And for me, 4 stars is oh my gosh, it was so good. It's not 4 stars was not good enough. 4 stars is oh my gosh, it was awesome. 5 stars, I'm very picky with 5 stars. And so 5 stars basically have to be favorites or near favorites. So I get really confused when some people are like, yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I was a little disappointed by it. 4 stars does not equal disappointment for me. 4 stars equals amazing. So I wanted to provide some examples because I'm not quite sure I'm good at explaining things well. I told you the baseline is 3 stars, so I'm going to give you some examples of 3 stars. And of course there are things that range at the a lower on the stars and a higher on the stars, so a lower 3 stars or a higher 3 stars. One that I think is a perfect solid 3 stars, as in it is exactly 3 stars for me, is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I know this is actually more popular than her Summer Turned Pretty trilogy, but the Summer Turned Pretty trilogy is 5 stars for me, and this is 3 stars. So I enjoyed it. I just didn't love it. I'm not obsessed with it, that kind of thing. The third book was my favorite, and I did give that one 4 stars, but this one was a 5 stars and a pretty good example of my baseline. Then an example of an upper 3 stars is Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. The rest of Morgan Matson's books that I've read so far have been 4 stars, and this one is 3 stars but on the upper end of it. The only reason this isn't 4 stars and it's 3 stars is just because it took me a little while to get into it and to actually care about stuff, which actually that's a theme in Morgan Matson's books. But now that I'm used to it, I can appreciate the time when I'm okay, I'm not 100% into this yet, but I know I'll get there, and then by the time I get there, it's really good, and so it deserves the 4 stars. And then an example of a lower 3 stars is The Raven Boys. I think on Goodreads they're all set at 3 stars for me, but I feel they're more 2 stars. So they're upper 2, lower 3 stars for me, which means I liked them, but I certainly didn't love them. I didn't dislike them, I just didn't feel like they were for me. I'm sorry I didn't love you. Next, I'm going to show you some examples of 2 stars. So this is a pretty solid 2-star read for me. Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and pretty much the rest of this series. I'm not a huge fan of the Lunar Chronicles. I did read them all, finally finished them recently. For me, they're 2 stars, and they're a baseline regular 2 stars, not point something, not 1 point something. They're 2 stars. I did give Winter 3 stars and Stars Above 3 stars because I enjoyed those more. Then more of an upper 2 stars is the 3 Dark Crowns series. I don't love this series. Belly, we do not need your booty. I don't love this series or anything, but it is definitely intriguing, and there's just something about it that keeps me interested in it. So it's an upper 2 stars, but I also couldn't rate it a 3 stars because it's not quite enough to be a 3 stars for me. And then an example of a lower 2 stars is The Gilded Wolves. I didn't really enjoy this. It was pretty close to being a 1 star. It was 2 stars because it was okay. I just really didn't care about it, and it felt like a total ripoff of Six of Crows, and like it just didn't work for me. Now for some 1-star reads. So first off, here's an example of a 1-star that I don't hate it, it just I didn't like it at all, and that's There's Someone Inside Your House. And I just read this recently, so this is the first thing that came to my mind. It's not that I hate it, like I feel like if I was a normal person who rated a little less harshly, it would be 2 stars. But for me it was 1 star just because I didn't care for it at all. Like there's nothing about it that I liked. And then there's an example of a 1-star that is, I hated it. This is the worst book I have ever read. I would never recommend it to anyone. In fact, I would warn everyone to stay away from this one. Not just like my own personal opinions, but it romanticizes a lot of awful things. It romanticizes very harmful relationships. It romanticizes rape. It romanticizes abuse and suicide, and it is very, very, very awful. I think it is an awful novel. I cannot believe it was written. I cannot believe it was published. Do not read this book. This is the worst book that has ever been written. Now, on to 4 stars. Some solid 4-star reads for me are Casey West books. These are my 2 favorites by her so far. I love them so much. Like, Casey West just has the cutest little contemporary reads that are basically like the exact kind of books that I want to write. They're just really cute and so well done and so enjoyable and such a quick and fast-paced read. I give them 4 stars. Again, if I wasn't so picky with my 5 stars, these 2 would probably be 5 stars if I were like probably anybody else. But they're 4 stars just because they're not necessarily favorites, but they're definitely like almost favorites. Like I love them a lot. An example of a really high 4-star read is The Sun Is Also a Star. This one really, really surprised me. It's also really pretty on the dust jacket. I don't know if you can see like it's so pretty. Under the dust jacket is what I meant. This is a beautiful story. It's well done. It's got some great themes. It's well written. I really, really enjoyed it. This is like a 4.5 almost. Then we've got The Wicked Deep, which isn't necessarily a 4.5, but it's like a 4.3 probably. So this is like a higher 3 stars, but not too close to 5 stars, if that makes any sense. Like if I had to switch one of these to 5 stars, it would be this one. And so this one I really, really enjoyed. I thought it was so good. It surprised me in a lot of ways, and I enjoyed it very thoroughly. And so this is like a 4.3-ish. And then finally on to 5 stars. 5 stars basically has to be favorites. There are some exceptions where I give something 5 stars, and it doesn't instantly go into like my favorite list. Like there are a lot of people like on Bookstagram, the question of the day is, what are your favorite books? And I have like a set list of books that I put every single time, and there's just too many 5-star reads to write down every single time, and so those are the ones that are 5 stars, but I don't talk about as much, if that makes sense. So for example, Love Lucy by April Lindner. I gave this 5 stars. I've only read it once though. Sometimes 5 stars for me, depending on how it goes. I don't put on my favorites till I've read it again and like solidified in my mind that it is amazing and that I love it. So I've only read this once and I need to reread it, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. I loved every moment of it, and I gave it 5 stars. I don't remember much about it because it was like a year ago and my memory's awful. This was definitely a very solid 5 stars for me, but I don't talk about it a ton. And then the perfect example of a real big 5 stars is Shatter Me. Basically my all-time favorite book. So all the books that when people ask me, what are your favorite books? Those are all 5 stars, and those are like as high 5 stars as possible. They're like 10, 11 stars on a 5-star scale. So I also want to give an example of how many books of each rating I've read this year so you can see like what's kind of normal for me. Hey Wendy. What are you doing? Are you okay? Are you having an existential crisis? So as of October 2nd, for 2019, I have given 10 books 1 star, 40 books 2 stars, and 3 were rereads, 39 books 3 stars, and 5 were rereads, 50 books 4 stars, and 14 were rereads, and 28 books 5 stars, and 17 were rereads. So I hope that helps you see like how often I rate books certain ways, and you can also see like I reread books a lot. Also, 59 of those have been audiobooks, 3 of them have been half audiobooks, 13 of them have been nonfiction, and the rest have been YA or sometimes adult fiction. So I hope that was helpful or explained things a little bit. I know my rating system can be different from other people's, but other people may also agree with me. So let me know down below what your rating system is like and whether it's similar to mine or different. Tell me how you rate your books. Thank you so much for watching, and check back next week for more videos. Also, I may have brown hair in the next videos because I'm auditioning for Beauty and the Beast, and I want that role.